According to Liberal MPs, the Prime Minister literally yells at MPs who tell him things that he doesn't want to hear. They don't have the right to question him. They don't have the right to write to him either. Is it because they're afraid of the Prime Minister?
Imagine having a job and only showing up to work once a month. Imagine the same job. You expense your employer $200,000 for food for your 3 private jet flights, of which $5,000 is for creme brulee and Normandy butter. Imagine this same business is now failing because the promises that you made during the application process is you were going to get the most amazing deals imaginable, and you have accomplished absolutely nothing. Then imagine you actually get to keep your job and you secure even more power by going to another company and bribing those employees with bags of cash to join your team. Then you approve new policies within this company that nobody asked for. And you know what the craziest part about this story is? This is no company. This is Canada. In this report, Mark Carney's Liberals are currently taking an absolute beating. Mark Carney's own MPs are telling media that he is yelling at their faces. He's lashing out and he's punching down at caucus. He refuses to listen to any feedback from anybody. The Liberal cracks are forming and they're hard to hide. We are currently seeing the collapse of the Liberal Party. And isn't it ironic that the rot is forming from within a rotten party? How ironic is that? Let's get into this report. We're going to start today's episode off with some good news. It's all downhill from here. The Senate is currently discussing Bill C-9. It's in the third reading for approval. Yesterday, the Senate actually voted down, and this is a sigh of relief, the amendment to outlaw residential school denialism. The amendment, which would have made condoning, denying, or downplaying the Indian residential school system a crime under the criminal code, which was originally added to the Standing Senate Committee on Human Rights. However, it was rejected as it reached the floor for votes in the full Senate. You know, I'm relieved because imagine, for example, Dallas Brody, Carrie Lynn Finley, I'm not denying anything, but if I reported on it, they were trying to do a 2-year prison sentence straight to jail for 2 years. If you even mention that there is not one body found underground. Canada is completely cooked. This is Canada's finance minister, and he has zero idea what a recession is. In fact, he believes a recession is record GDP growth. The best in the G7.
Chair. Minister, what is the definition of a recession?
Madam Chair, I think what my colleague, which I have a lot of respect for, is getting at is the economy, the Canadian economy resilient? And my response to him, I would say the Canadian economy is indeed resilient.
As the finance minister, I find it a little bit shocking. You don't know what the definition is. It's the widely accepted definition is 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline. Would you agree with Friday's Stats Can report that Canada has had 2 consecutive GDP declining quarters? Yes or no?
Madam Chair, I think what my colleague is getting at, because I know he's looking at the data that came out, I think he will be comforted in his assessment by the OECD, which released numbers yesterday, which said that Canada would have the second fastest growth in the G7 for 2026 and 2027.
Statistics Canada, your own statistics agency, has said on Friday that Canada has had 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline. Would you agree with that report? Yes or no?
I have to stop. So when they say record growth, look, we have record growth because we were negative and now we are positive. This is like a 200% increase from where we were at. Is that why he's saying we're having record growth? Are you feeling the record growth? I can't wait till all of us, including you, are rolling around the street in your brand new Lamborghini.
Madam Chair, I think that my colleague, when they read the report in more detail, they will see that there's some interesting element. We've seen business investment in machinery and equipment, which is up.
Machinery and equipment is up. I've said this before. When you start from zero and you get $100 above zero, wow, we are up 100%, ladies and gentlemen. Machinery and equipment, it's been so bad. Let me show you a chart. First, this chart just came out today. Business investment per worker, inflation adjusted. Canada is in deep investment crisis. Check out everybody else. United Kingdom, United States, the EU, OECD with the 32 plus countries. Canada is at the very bottom of the list. Everybody else is doing fine. Canada is taking on water, and we can't shovel the water out of the boat fast enough. Now I want to show you the industrial implosion. You know that machinery? Look, we're getting all this machinery investment. Check this out. We went from basically the same as the United States, like up, all the way up. But since Justin Trudeau, it has fallen off a cliff. Then Mark Carney shows up. And where did we go? Straight down. One more thing. We are at the lowest level in Canadian history. So when you start at the very bottom, the lowest level ever, and we're talking about 46 years of records here, of course, it's record growth because you are starting at the very bottom. So if you see just a little bit of investment, that is record growth. Let's finish watching this record growth.
We've seen business investment in intellectual property
Investment has
up, and we've seen
declined for
spending
5
by
straight
government
quarters.
going
But
down.
I'll move on, since obviously the finance minister of the country that helped to drive our economy into a recession refuses to answer. So it's very clear by the minister's own stats agency that Canada is in a recession now, a full-blown one. Can the minister tell us if any other G7 country is in a recession?
Madam Chair, again, my colleague will be happy to hear in Canadians, because I know they're watching this morning, that the OECD yesterday just released numbers that shows again that Canada will have the second fastest growth in the G7.
Since the minister brought up the OECD, can the minister tell us how many countries in the OECD are in a recession today?
None.
Madam Chair, like I said, what really matters for Canadians is to see where we do compared to other G7 nations. And
I'll
if you
answer
look
for
at
the
the
minister,
numbers,
since he
Madam Chair, you'll
refuses
see
to
we're
answer.
growing twice
Point
as
of
much.
order.
In fact, in the entire OECD, in all developed countries, there's only 2 countries that went into a recession. That's Canada and Ireland. And all other countries, especially the ones in the G7, are facing the exact same global pressures and tariffs. Yet Canada is the only G7 country in a recession. Can you tell us why?
Madam Chair, I think Canadians who are watching this morning understand very well the level of uncertainty we're in. If you look at the World Uncertainty Index published by the International Monetary Fund, you will see that today the uncertainty
all other
is kind of
countries
equal to
are
what we
facing the
face after
same
the
global
second
Point of
World War.
order,
pressures.
Chair.
Minister, so it's very clear, as the finance minister, you're completely dodging, and you can't even admit or say the word recession, which we are in a full-blown recession, according to your own stats agency. In fact, Canada is the only country in the G7 that's had 3 out of 4 quarters of economic decline.
How could this guy sit there and try to tell us that we are seeing record GDP growth? How could he actually sit there and say the future is bright in Canada? We're going to beat out all the other countries because we have a plan. Just like the plan of the last 11 years of telling Canadians, you're going to make life more affordable for us. Every single plan that they have delivered us has made things worse for Canadians. Hopefully you're sitting down for this one. The PBO just came out with the federal government's debt. When Mark Carney showed up, $1.8 trillion. And by year 2030, $2.7 trillion. So you're telling me Mark Carney in just 5 years is going to add $1 trillion to our debt. And with this brand new announcement, we're about to see Mark Carney's polling numbers reach 100%, maybe even 110%, to hear that we're going to be adding $1 trillion in debt so that our kids are going to have to pay for it. It only took a global pandemic and a drama teacher that is pneumodyslexic a decade to accomplish what Mark Carney's gonna do in only 5 years. Now that we know that Mark Carney's planning on spending $1 trillion and yet we're still in a recession, we gotta go to David Crocken. He's trying to save Mark Carney's career by bringing in a former banker. And yes, it exploded on his face.
Today with that technical recession as the Conservative leader continues to press the Prime Minister over the state of the Canadian economy. The former Governor of the Bank of Canada, David Dodge, joins me now. David Dodge, always good to see you, sir. Thank you for your time today.
Hi, David.
There's a big political debate over the state of the economy, with people calling it a full-blown recession, others focusing on the technical recession. The Prime Minister saying that it's in a settling-in period following reductions in immigration and spending growth. What's your view of where the Canadian economy is at this moment?
Well, I think we're in for a period of essentially zero growth for a couple of years as we make the adjustments we have to make.
Canada is the fastest growing economy, secondly speaking, in the G7 this year and next.
But let's look at some economic facts. We have the second fastest growing economy in the G7.
Okay, so when we look at this period of maybe 2 years, as you say, of zero growth, should Canadians look at that as a failure or maybe as a necessity to facilitate this transition you say we need to make?
Well, it's a necessity if we're going to have good growth in the future. It's a result of our failure to do things over the past 15 or 20 years to build a stronger, more resilient economy.
The second fastest growth in the G7, Mr. Speaker, almost twice as Germany and Japan.
Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade.
Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade. For who? For you? For me? Or for Mark Carney and Brookfield? Before I show you the top story of today, where Mark Carney's Liberal Party is rotting from within, we want to take a look at his receipts. You know, all of that creme brulee? Check this out. Broken down. Shocking.
We'll do the whole PCO next week for you, Mr. Speaker, and you'll get a kick out of that. Canada's the only G20 country that's in a recession, and while Canadians, and it may be a laughing matter to them, but while Canadians are missing mortgage payments, bankruptcies are up, and nearly 60% have little or no money left over at the end of the month. The Liberal Prime Minister spent money in Rome, $4,213 on creme brulee, $3,800 on chocolate in Rome, and $593 on luxury Normandy buttercups, whatever that is. Canadians deserve an honest answer. Are we in a recession or a technical recession? Tell us the truth.
Tell us the truth. Please tell us the truth. We might have to wait a while before we get a truthful answer from this government. I read my comment section and I was asked, you need to look back at Mark Carney's time as the governor of the Bank of England. And oh, did I find a clip for you. Mark Carney in committee as the Bank of Canada governor in 2014. His strategy was exposed. He set one clear goalpost. He hit it immediately. Then he created 18 new indicators so that nobody could tell what the goalpost was anymore. They called him out saying, you're providing fuzzy guidance. I call it weaponized confusion.
Good morning. I'd like to ask you about your sort of bait and switch tactics on forward guidance. You sort of came in here when we first met you, and you set up a single item as your sort of talisman almost for forward guidance, which was employment. And I'm just curious, were you sort of taken by surprise how quickly that you sort of hit that target? And then, having hit that target, you suddenly created something like 18 new goalposts, which to me, at least looks on the surface like explicit guidance now is dead and buried, which is a point that I think I made the last time you became before me, and has been traded in now for some form of, I think, fuzzy guidance, as it's been referred to.
It's always been about confuse and distract with Mark Carney. And our top story, it has been leaked. Mark Carney yells. He yells at his MPs and he talks down on his caucus, and they're all terrified of him. No one could bring up any suggestions to him. He's just gonna start yelling. Check this out. Over the course of several caucus meetings, MPs report Mark Carney lashing out at certain numbers when he doesn't like the message that they deliver. The experience has left lasting imprints on several of the MPs. He yells at their faces, said one MP. Like others, spoke on conditions of animosity to avoid retribution from the Prime Minister's office. He punches down at caucus all the time. All the time. He punches down on his caucus all the time. This is explosive new information. Mark Carney told his caucus members he doesn't want to hear any of their concerns. While his message may resonate with some, hearing complaints can be useful sometimes. Yeah, don't you think? Because sometimes an early warning system for the government on certain policies or bills are not properly understood. If you've been talked down to and punched down as caucus, how is Mark Carney going to know if what he's doing is bad? Everybody's terrified of Mark Carney. He's yelling at them in their faces. Can you believe it, Canada? I believe it. There's no surprise, but I'm just surprised that this is starting to leak out. Do you think this will be good for Mark Carney's polling numbers or bad for Mark Carney's polling numbers? Are we seeing the snowball effect, where the snowball starts here and it grows massive and then goes boom? Are we seeing the fall of the Liberal Party from within? What a great day it is today. We need change in this country. Is this the beginning of the change we are looking for? Love to hear from you in the comments section. I'll see you on the next report.